Hello. Good
Yes.
afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, this wonderful panel. Thank you so much, all of you. On behalf of Ratna Sagar, I welcome all of you to this uh, very interesting deliberations. We hope to find some solution, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So we hope to reach that light in a while. We are lucky to have Dr. Amita Vatal, the international rock star of education, to take this session forward. So I invite her to welcome the panelists.
I was just thinking whether Samriddhi should be giving us the instructions. Samriddhi,
Sure,
could you do that first, please? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Samriddhi, yeah.
Okay.
Please.
So very good afternoon to all the participants who've joined today. Since we are a huge audience, so we are all on a watch mode. So you'll be able to listen and hear to the speakers as they are speaking along. And if you have any questions, we would request you to please send them in the chat and your questions will be duly addressed. So please send in your questions as along they occur to you whenever you have it. Please do not wait for the end of the session. However, all the questions will be answered at the end of the session once the panelists have finished speaking. So those are the instructions. You'll be able to see the active speaker and not each other, since this is a webinar mode on Zoom meetings, and we would be requesting you to send in your questions through chat. So welcome once again and thank you. Over to Amita.
We also have with us Mr. Sugat Jain. He's the Managing Director of Ratna Sagar.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, chaliye.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to say that thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity that Ratna Sagar is giving to principals across the country. It's amazing that the way that the linkages are being created. And I would like to particularly thank Sugat for that, and of course, my very dear friend Atia, and of course, somebody who's at the helm of all this tech that we see and makes it so possible. Thank you so much, somebody, for this, and Rajiv. So, I think 3 cheers to Ratna Sagar for having all this fantastic biradri together. What's the most wonderful thing is the kind of panel that we have today. You know, I know many of them personally, and also that I've been listening to them. There's a lot of wisdom that you're going to find from them, because a lot of us are at sea. And so actually, though Atia mentioned about me, but I think they're the true rock stars, because the kind of work that is being done at different levels in this country, and the kind of limitations, sometimes in rural areas, sometimes in smaller towns and so on. I think it's amazing, and I'm really looking forward to these conversations with the panel this afternoon. So the truth is that, you know, this corona pandemic really shone the spotlight on the fact that the kind of learning that we've been doing in the past seems to have somehow failed us somewhere, whether it was tech learning or whether it was learning in the pedagogical manner. So we had to sort of rework and reconstruct and rewire the way that we were going to be looking at learning. And I must say that teachers really were troopers and came up with a fantastic manner in which they went ahead and went forward with this. So we've had this great opportunity, as was just mentioned by my friend Rahul here, Mr. Rahul here, to build up and to take this engagement forward and to connect with each other through tech, through digitalization, and look at how learning is going to actually pan out. Because you see, we have been right now, as I say in so many webinars, we've been responding to the crisis. Now we have to recover from it. Though even today, we really don't know when we're going to get back to school. But then there's that huge DP that has been going around, that buildings may be shut, but learning is happening. So learning is going to be happening in so many wonderful ways. So knowing that when we finally walk back into our buildings of brick and mortar, what is it that we are going to change? How are we going to take it forward? And we will need to leverage our energy, our optimism. Because right now, sometimes, you know, with so much happening online for 3 months, a certain exhaustion has set in with teachers. And you know, so we need to carry on with an engagement with our colleagues. We need to share resources. We need to share documents. We need to share so many things. And this is, as we said, the first time that so many people have come together, and we need to work together for this. So because ultimately the learning that we need is really not the education that we have been receiving. So in that, even as I speak, 9.6 million children are having some kind of help online, but 250 million children have absolutely none. So we have to really look that, are we really reaching the last child? Even in our own schools, our principals here on the panel will tell you that they have probably not been able to reach every child. So how do we work towards that kind of access? And how do we sort of lessen the widening gap that is going on? Because our greatest worry is that our success story has been marred by inequity. And so how do we make that equity possible for our children and so on? And so therefore it has become a necessity to come back to school. It may not happen now, but whenever the guidelines come back, I think we have to create niches for our children to come back in the best way possible. So today we are going to do a lot of sharing on emotional pedagogy. We're going to share on assessments. We're going to share on teacher training, on curriculum development. And what a fantastic opportunity, because we have people here who have specialized, and a very particular point that friends have specialized is in primary education. And I'm really looking forward to listening to her when she's going to talk about it. So on that note, I would like to request Mr. Siris Prasad Rawla, Principal, Vikas Rec School, Odisha, an extremely respected educator, someone who's been involved with art education in different ways, someone who's been very focused towards hosting these wonderful sports and these national games activities for CBSE, who's heavily committed to learning. So this pandemic trauma has really affected the teaching community of the school. And I think these Zoom meetings have clearly designed that what we already knew did not work and cannot be transferred in the new environment. So on that, how are we going to empower our teachers with the necessary skills? How will we look at the mutuality and home-based hybrid learning? How will we elevate ourselves through sharing of documentation and resources? For all this, I'm looking forward to Mr. Rawla to give us some insight into these wonderful questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Amita, and good evening, everybody. I'm very, very thankful to Ratna Sagar for this opportunity to interact with this part of the country, Eastern India. You know, we are all the people much suffered, lot of drawbacks, lot of challenges, you know, when it comes to education, mostly rural based, and mostly we have the scheduled caste and tribe people there in this part of the country. And still, it is the high time for all of us that we have taken to the spirit. Everybody says, who is the corona fighter? I think that when Dr. Mullah, when she was speaking, that much affected, everybody is affected, but teachers and student community is much affected because we are out of the schools. You cannot live without school, cannot live without the students' knowledge, you cannot live without them. And till what way we are missing the school and missing the children, missing the community, missing the parents, you know. And whenever it comes that when there is a willpower, we can do miracles. See, our teachers are our strength. You know, all the educators, all the decision makers and the leaders and the teachers, whoever they're people taking decision in the country, and they should think that our teachers should be empowered. Okay, and here it has been, I got this opportunity to just to share certain things that our teachers, no, there are two kinds of people there in this world today when it comes to the digitalization of the world. One is digital natives, our children, you know, the school students, those who are their class 4, 5, 3, 2, and 10. When it comes to 12th, when it compared to the other day, I had a discussion with the students. I was talking to them, how can you do it, that mathematical calculations when we are going for e-learning portal? We have a e-learning portal. When the questions come, and I had 3 sessions for the senior secondary students, for the middle class students up to secondary class 1 to 5 students. When it came to class 1 to 5, they were giving the symbols and signs such a frequent way through their mobiles. I was surprised because that 12th class students couldn't do certain times. They could question that how to solve the questions there in e-learning portals, because our systems are not so compatible at present when we are developing things. But they gave it all kind of solutions that we could do it from the systems and mobiles. And they took three categories for people. That some people were there in the desktop, some people were there in laptop, some people were there in mobiles. But those who are in mobiles today, they are much better than the laptops and desktops. And that our teachers are finding a difficulty here. And we, the educators, with the decision makers and those who are the directors of the schools, the management must take care of all these things, make our teachers empowered to get better and better in, because the students cannot be. And that's just I'm in the matter. I'm just sharing 2 or 3 things with you. Just one. I think I'm visible with the screen.
Yes, very visible. Very clear. I
Right,
can
I'm
see
just sharing my screen. Yeah. See, this is what it will be, empowering our teachers for the 21st century learning, and the 21st century is ours. You know, when we come to our students are digital natives. Digital natives are those people, they don't wait for, you know, they just don't go with the manuals. They have a lot of trials and errors. They just all are born after 1995, and they go with the trials and errors, and so in the process they find all the functions doing with themselves. Whereas our teachers are not digital natives, they are digital immigrants, because when it comes to them, they just take the manuals very hardly, try to through one step, other step of the manuals of the digital devices or that whatever the gadgets they are getting. And there is a difference, and these people who have born 1995 and always having the busyness with the manuals. But nowadays the real class is out of the order. Now chalk and talk has gone, and it has taken place the whiteboard and the presentation through different platforms of media, social media, different platforms. You know, we have it Zoom, we have it Google. All these platforms now had come to the existence. There is textbook, there is a gesture and body languages, and here verbal and non-verbal feedback, which is out now, it is a digital content has come to take place, and the total verbal communication is going on. Chat and polls are there, the students are giving their feedbacks, and add-ons and extensions are there nowadays. And we have to empower our teachers, and how this they are digital, they express themselves with their own style. They don't pay our students, you know, at all the times, and they are always in traveling mode, tend to travel all the times, and in 24 hours they needed to demand access to the internet. And they are having this all kind of chatting and video messaging and texting that to the, even they don't talk it through the, they are just mostly visited. They know, yeah, technology geeks, they are technological, that you say geeks, they all the times visited. Even they send their message, they don't have a social contact more of the times, and even they have the social contact, they have through the digitalization only. They don't attack and waste their time, and they are so good at in social medias. And there it is failure with our teachers finding a very difficult time with this all. And the new normal has come up. This is our old normal, sit and listen, and verbal teaching, teacher commanding, and curriculum at centered. This one, some question, whatever there is in the curriculum, same thing it is. But our children are now, they don't need this from book to verbal to visual, they have taken place now. And sit and listen instead, try and see. Teacher is now facilitator, it's not a teacher itself, not commanding, collaborating, taking into consideration all views and producing the thing to there. And curriculum centered, not learning, it's now no curriculum centered. Sorry, I will say the other day when I was taking a class there, and I asked where does this road go? Then the students said, sir, roads never go. People go on it. See, that is learner centric. Curriculum says that this road goes to somewhere, but when it comes, learner says no, roads never go. People go on it, and we are only travelers. We cannot tell that the road is a traveler. See, such kind of thing. And closed books exams have now, open books world already. Open books have come. Whenever we ask a question, there should be open book questions. I will be talking if anybody questions there, whether I'm questioning anybody questions, I will slowly clear it out. What is that? And all that devices have taken from books and other things. And this is the world now of the 21st learning and 21st skills. Our teachers should be equipped with 21st. And what is 24? 3 R's into 3 C's. And when it becomes a 21st century, learning, reading, writing, this is all still traditionally, these things can never go out of our minds. Reading,
Mr.
writing.
Raulo, thank you. I'm so sorry to, I mean, you've been saying such wonderful things, and in fact, I think we have to have a very intensive question hour for you, because these are absolutely bang on things that you're talking about, which I think are essential to what we have to do in terms of understanding learning and so on. So I think what we have to really look at, and that's what you're trying to imply, is that we have to now look at how are we accrediting our online teaching learning modules. How are teachers going to look at, or principals going to look at, what are the kind of gadgets they have? How can they reach other people in a better manner? Because the truth is that blended learning is here to stay. So thank you very much for that very intense and very extremely well thought out presentation that you have shown. And it's amazing that you have.
Have I gone out of time? I see.
No, you have actually. You have. So I would
I
like
see.
to thank you for that, and I would like to
Gotcha.
now
Okay, slowly,
take it
when
on
it is
to
coming
another
to the question
level.
asked,
Thank you.
I will slowly cut it.
Definitely in questions we'll ask. So now we're looking at a very important aspect, because which is diametrically opposite to technology, and that is emotional wellness. And when we say that every child has a right to know and experience what is happening in the 21st century, because that is what lies at the core of all social emotional learning. Until now, these were just words we used to talk about in our conversations, and we looked at it in learning outcomes. But I think these aspects of collaboration, empathy, concentration, a certain creativity and identity and self-esteem, all of that has become now very integral as to how do we weave all these aspects of 21st century learning and embed it into our curriculum, because we are in an existential crisis as far as our children are concerned, because in front of all this online phenomena that we've seen happening. So on that note, I would like very much to ask Dr. Rajni Shekhar, Principal Ms. Rajni Shekhar, Principal of DBMS English School, Jammu, to share how the conflict that our children have gone through, and how can we identify areas of stress and detachment and so on. So with, I now ask Dr. Rajni. Dr. Rajni.
Good afternoon, everybody. And it's so nice to see so many principals, even if only virtually. We're going through times which none of us would have ever imagined, a time of what you can call VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, which has affected the education sector too. However, unlike other sectors which were probably already on a digital platform, our learning community has had to move into an online platform practically overnight, and at an untested and unimagined scale, almost as if we were running a marathon without really training for it. A gamut of emotions have been plaguing students, teachers, as well as parents. For students, right from the tiny tots to young adolescents, fear and anxiety, fear of something totally unknown, unseen, unimaginable, the big C, which earlier we would equate with maybe cancer, uncertainty, a lack of security and scaffolding, a feeling of sadness and grief, helplessness, and sometimes even frustration. Parents too have had their share of woes.
I think we have some problems with Ms. Rajni's, because she has electricity problems.
I'm back.
Amriti? Back, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Parents too have had their share of problems, like maybe job security. They are worried about a loved one who is away from home. They have had to adjust to the new modalities of homeschooling, which parents probably never had to do before. Here now they're playing such a pivotal role. They need to be parents 24/7, looking after the self-learning, which is happening more than the guided learning, which was happening earlier. Teachers have to tackle both home front as well as work simultaneously, and that too in a totally new terrain. They have to up their skills at an unprecedented pace to reach out to the last student most effectively. The worry of now being seen and probably assessed during a live session by not only the students, but by other invisible members of the family. Constant doubts. Am I audible, children? Can you see me? This is a constant refrain, and she prays for uninterrupted network. But very quickly, this transition has been made. As educators, we have learned to brace up with technology and to reach out and connect with students. Supportive parents, peers, concerned teachers, and principals have all emerged as pillars of strength in these times. A room has been transformed into a classroom, another one at home into an office. Everything is abuzz with activity. But this is the time more than ever to collaborate and communicate. It is a time for parents and teachers to be patient, to be good listeners, to try and bring about a routine in the child's life, a structure and a regularity, even in this tough situation. Parents need to restrict overuse of gadgets and too much of viewing news, what we call news, but which is so full of corona these days. Educators need to restructure, redesign, and realign the way that learning will happen. They need to involve students in group projects so that they can communicate more with one another. Move away from concept-based rote learning to skill-based learning. Though social distancing is keeping us all spatially apart, but words like join, link, attach has become the common used words, which have found a totally new meaning in bringing people emotionally closer. So other than understanding and accepting the challenges, we must take a pledge to make certain other changes in our lives. We need to find purpose and feeling. We need to keep the children suitably engaged in everyday activities. They need to feel happy by experiencing joy in small accomplishments. Maybe playing board games like Ludo with grandparents to form family bonding. Even reading, reading has a therapeutic value because the book cannot find fault with you. To take up any kind of hobby which motivates them. A feeling of empathy and compassion, the feeling of wanting to help others, feeling thankful for what we have, an attitude of gratitude is what is required. And building resilience in our children in the face of adversity is the need of the hour. We need to take lessons from nature. Mother Nature never pampers, so that the seed, it has to first penetrate into the soil. Then it has to emerge out as a shoot. Only then can it make its presence felt in the world. It has to withstand all tests of time, drought, floods. It could be uprooted before it becomes a majestic tree. A feeling of mindfulness needs to be
Ms.
cultivated
Shekhar,
among
thank you.
children.
Ms. Shekhar, can you hear me? Ms.
Yes, sir,
Shekhar,
I can hear you.
Ms. Shekhar,
Yeah.
can you hear me? No, I
I can
just want
hear
to
you.
say that firstly, I love your background. You've got these gorgeous flowers and plants in your background, which is fabulous.
Can I say
But I
something?
just want you to say,
Can
Yeah.
I say
You say
something?
something.
One comment.
yes, please,
This is also
Please go.
technology which has failed. There's hardly any light inside the house because of the power failure. So I'm out in my garden.
No, but then I like the emotional event of the garden. So thank you very much for that. But I want to just say how wonderfully you have articulated the need for an emotional compass that we need to have. And we need it as urgently as we need the vaccine, because the mental health issues have come up in so many ways that you're going to feel the domino effect. Thank you very much. And I'm sure a lot of interesting questions are going to come up about your topic on emotional wellness. I know I'm going to ask you many things. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. The next conversation we're going to have is a very interesting one, and very few people have talked about it, but all of us are very, very worried and concerned about it. And this is, how do we deal with tiny tots? How do we deal with them? There have been so many surveys that have taken place about the effect of the virus on the younger child. As a result, the parents are extremely anxious, about sending them to school. Just yesterday, I was reading that England was supposed to be opening up school on the 15th for the smaller children, but they have said no, they're not going to do it anymore. And social distancing, how does a child of 3-year-old or 4-year-old wear a mask and keep hanging around and not go and hug his teacher? How can he do that? So this is going to be a big issue when you bring in primary school children. And so maintaining small sizes, putting them into these social bubbles, it's very difficult to deliver learning at that age. So even if you have to bring them back, because school is a humanizing space. So, and the children, they get set back because if you don't help them to learn at such a young age, it will affect them. So for all these and more, we've got a tremendous subject expert in this area who has been a primary expert, a primary school, a primary learning expert, not only for our own state, but has also delivered this kind of subject expertise in the state of Odisha. And we have Ms. Suman Sood, Director of BD Memorial School, a highly regarded educator for several decades, who was extremely sensitized towards the whole understanding of primary education and primary learning. So with that, I would request Ms. Sood to please enlighten us on how do we take this whole debate forward on primary learning. Ms. Sood?
Good evening, and thank you, Ratna Sagar, for this wonderful opportunity to connect with such wonderful people who are educators and very good human beings. And all of us are concerned and worried about one thing, and that is about the children, the future of our world. how they are coping up, how they are being affected by this situation, which are and these times are, we all know, are such unprecedented times. We don't have any precedent, we don't have anything to go by. We cannot say that we can take this example and move forward with the help of this. So we are totally at a loss. It's basically a trial and error method. And what is being these tiny tots, as you said, they are the main sufferers, and they are these are the foundation years on which tall buildings are built. And we know that if the foundation is strong, the building is strong. So now we are worried that there's going to be a gap in their learning, not only in their learning, in their emotional health and well-being, because these times they have to be handled very, very carefully. So first of all, yes, children are being locked down. They're locked down in the house, and we know for them, play is work. With play they learn, and for them it is not just play, it is learning of so many different things, and we are denying them of that very opportunity now. And there is nothing that we can do about it. We have to keep them safe. As a society, we have this responsibility of keeping our children safe, and that is what we are doing. Parents are there 24/7 with the children, so it's not only hard on these little kids, it's hard on the parents as well, because they are also in that kind of a situation when sometimes they do get frustrated. They are working from home, they are working at home, and they are keeping eye on their children, and on top of it all, they are helping them with their online learning as well. So amongst all the other things, we have pushed these little ones into online learning. They are overwhelmed with this. So this is a scene which is really a very hard kind of a situation. So it's not only it's challenging in all respects, and the children are also struggling with anxiety. They don't know what's happening, why it is happening. We are telling them, we are trying to explain it to them about the COVID-19, but I think it's not really, they're not at a stage to understand the whole all the implications. So they are wondering when this is all going to end, and when they are going to go back to their normal lives, when they'll go out to play, have play dates with their friends, and play out in the parks, and meet their friends, go to school with their school bags. They are missing their classes, they are missing their normal routine, they are missing their teachers. So with all this scenario, of course, schools and parents have both joined hands, and they are trying to give them the best possible learning now which we can, and that is the online learning. So as responsible organizations, as responsible educators, what we are trying is that we are trying to make children not being overwhelmed with this online learning. So let them enjoy. I think that what we need to do then is we need to give them a routined life. In spite of all this, there has to be a routine, there has to be a structure where children can, they can enjoy this period, and they can at the same time get the best learning possible. And we should try to reduce the gap between their learning in these years. So teachers, they need to not make it into a virtual school or a virtual classroom. It should be just home-based learning with the help of parents. Focus should be on life skills, and focus should be on just interaction and connection. Let the children be connected. Let the children not feel anxious. Let them feel happy seeing their teachers when they're seeing the teachers online after a long time. So they are getting happy. Many of them, we have instances when children have got up and hugged the screen thinking that the child is hugging the teacher. So that is the kind of cute.
Our audio's gone.
Also, and talking about anxiety, children have had they are getting a lot of problems also. So I've been speaking to some psychologists, And also we've had some surveys done. And in those surveys, we found the children have become, some of them, they have become aggressive, and parents have reported that, they are feeling insecure. They are wondering.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. I think you've said some very important things that we wanted to hear. And I think it's going to help us to sort of re-look at the way we look at primary learning. The tragedy, I think, Ms. Sood, is that how do we, how do you bring back these kids into school? And there are many parents who have to go to work and they can't sit with such small children. And I know that learning happens around an emotional experience, because I know that when the Katrina crisis took place in America, the younger lot got set back by 2 years. And in Rwanda, they got set back by 10 years. So there are huge issues about, because, maths and language not looked at through life skills at such a small age will set them back for a lifetime. So I think we need to really look at the way our children are, especially at the primary levels. But some very interesting points made by you. Thank you again for that, and I'm sure questions are going to come up. Now, the next conversation we're going to have is about curriculum, transaction, and assessments. So there's a very close integration of classroom and online learning now. So I think they have also said that because the whole rubrics of assessments are going to change, whether it's the board examination coming in 2021 or the rubrics that we have to look at, because most of this year is over. And so because the year is over, how are we going to start assessing them summatively? Because you can't really have any issues where you can sum them up summatively. So what are the various collaborative methods? What are the pedagogies that can be used? Can we create project-based learning in the way that we are teaching? Can we have children who basically are more analytical, reflective? Can we break down the subjects and make it optional for students? So what kind of instructions should we have? Because we are fairly free from nursery to class 8 or 9 to do our own thing. Because the teacher now will not be so directly responsible as the child will be for its own personalized learning and its own challenges. So how do we make this landscape of learning more elastic? So with that, for those questions and for those kind of conversations, I now request Ms. Sangeeta Tandon, principal of Sri Shikshayan School, Kolkata, to give us a brief on this. And she has been an educator for several years and a very well regarded person. And so we'd be very happy to hear your views on the whole idea of curriculum transaction. Thank you. Sangeeta.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Amita Bhatt. Can you hear me? Okay.
Very clearly,
so good evening to all the panelists and thank you, ma'am. So good evening to all the panelists and to the members who are attending this webinars. I take this as an opportunity not just to share, but also to learn today. And we need to thank Ratna Sagar for bringing us all together. Now, our topic today for me is curriculum transaction and assessment. Quite often the teachers have been asking, how are we going to ever finish the curriculum? Ma'am, so much work is left. We are moving so slowly. So many children are not learning. And even though we are giving classes, are they learning what we are teaching them? Or is there no learning which is taking place? A lot of questions are taking place. Parents are worried, teachers are worried. But I come here only with few ABCs. Now, the first and foremost, one thing that I would like to tell all of you is that we have to accept the situation that we are in. Till we do not accept that this virtual learning is here for quite some time without, of course, going to school, how are we ever going to progress? Now, if we are certain during this time of uncertainty, we can reassure the parents and we can move ahead. Now, I do not want to set the alarm bells ringing, but what if we are not able to open the school for quite some time? And as and when we open, how do we know all children would be in? Will the parents be willing to send their children? The little ones, will they be trooping in? Or it's only the senior classes? So as of now, the first thing that one needs to do is accept that virtual learning is here to stay. Later, it will turn into blended learning. The second thing that I would like to tell all teachers over here and of course all educators, that why not build an open, honest and respectful relationship with parents? Quite often parents are writing to us, there's feedback. You taught something like this which we did not understand, or it was not clear. Can you do this a little more? Is virtual learning an eyewash? We keep on hearing all such comments. Now let us all take it as a feedback that we are getting, and the duty of the school is to use the school website to to its optimum level to inform parents of what the school intends to do, how we will carry out our curriculum transaction and our assessment. The third thing that I would like to say is in my ABC is customize. Just like we keep on telling our children, each child is individual, even schools are very individual and very unique. So we can customize our learning. For this, there are so many things that we can do. The schools need to have the ERP platforms. We need to see how much of virtual learning time we are giving. We also need to look whether the children can afford to have, mobile phones or, devices to attend these classes. The biggest thing that we need to understand is that now we have to get into flip learning. Now, quite often we hear about flip learning, and we really need to do a lot of research. For this, our school, actually, what we started to do was we had a mix of classes. We would record lessons so that even a child could study the lessons in the evening. And then whenever there was device available for the child, the teacher would ask the child to go through it. And later we would have one interactive session where after learning or after understanding the topic, the child would come and child would be a part of it. So this flip learning is here to stay. Why can we not prune the syllabus till class 8? What is the problem? Can we not go on concept formation? Learning outcomes, can we not decide? Basically, for junior classes, I feel it's only numerical ability, languages, and life skills which are important. For 9 to 12, I'm sure the board is going to decide for us and tell us how much we can cut down and what are the ideas that we should be teaching, concepts. And of course, regarding assessment, we all understand we need to redesign our assessments. Can we not build up trust with our parents and tell them that this is the way we are going to take assessments? It could be group activities, projects. Till class 8, again, I say we can change the nature of assessments. We can, of course, go in for MCQs, subjective kind. We can do if we go on to those platforms, which our own ERP team can design, or we go for paid platforms. Of course, maybe how do you know that CBSE will not next year decide? Of course, I'm not saying that it's surety. CBSE may decide, okay, class 10 will not have a board exam. Anything can be done. Anything can take place. The best thing would be that we need to go very easy in our minds, and we need to accept and move ahead. And this is what I would like to say to begin with. There are more points, and in case there is time, then I can speak about that. Thank you, Dr. Vattal.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I must say, Dr. Sangeeta Tandon, what a marvelous exposition you have given, because I think you have brought on some very important points, the concern for parents, and also when you talked about mobilizing and, you talked about mobilizing and customizing and maybe strategizing the way that we should look at learning. I mean, all these ideas are very interesting to pollinate, to embed into our systems, because when I think that we have to look at an amalgamation of asynchronous and synchronous learning and look at flipped learning. So very finely done, and I think there will be great research if we carry on with learning in this manner. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions that will come up during the question hour. So thank you again for a very exhaustive and very nicely done conversation on this aspect of learning and curriculum. Thank you. The next conversation we have starting is the one on managing extracurricular activities, which is another very important point that I think hasn't come up really in many of the webinars that we have been attending. So, the co-curricular activities or the curricular activities are an expression of communication. And with the school having gone, how do we look at this whole arena of excursions having gone, of gaming? I mean, how do we look at adventure trips? How do we look at, how do we find the new avatar in co-scholastic or co-scholastic or co-curricular activities? Because social distancing will also create a problem in the school. I mean, if we are debating, how will we debate? Will we do it online, offline? Will that feel be over there? Because programs brings children together. Now we have to create programs that make children go apart. So for all this and more, we have now with us Mr. Swaraj Sebastian, Principal of St. Joseph School, Guwahati, to throw light on how are we going to look at of building these kind of capacities in children in post-scholastic activity. Mr. Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I'm very evening to Dr. Vattal and Ms. Satya Zedi, and to Ratna Sagar too, and to all the panelists who have already finished their topics. and to the respective principals, MDs, representatives from different reputed organizations. In fact, this is a spectacular platform to interact with, at this time when the situation has caused by unpredicted and affected pandemic COVID-19. So as I have been assigned with the topic like extracurricular, I should start with a small quote like, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? So that happens with normally. So he'll be speaking or focusing on the extracurricular activities, as it seems to be with less important for some of us or some of our perspective. Even when you talk with the parents, they're not, some of them are least bothered about extracurricular. They feel like, okay, I need to send my child to the school to complete the studies, and he or she need to get the maximum mark, maybe 90, 95, 100. That's what expectation from a parent. Definitely, as a parent, everyone will have the same expectation. But as we look into this atmosphere, at this, what happens with, sometimes you feel like extracurricular, which has been changed into, as per the new draft education policy, which is already out in 2019, it has clearly stated that there should be no hard separation between curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, or academic, which is like a vocational subject, or physical education, art education, or whatever. So that has been stated very properly. So if you go ahead with it like co-curricular activities, which may be defined as the activities undertaken to strengthen the classroom learning, as well other activities both inside and outside the classroom to develop the student at a whole. So that's what we need to just take it into it. Sometimes what happens with, like, as we are moving ahead, we undecidedly, maybe with the force or something else, divide children into maybe 4 to 5 groups. It's like, the students who are extremely well, who are scoring around the mark 95 to 100%, maybe we call it very good in academic students, 80 to 90, 95%, and maybe the above average students, maybe 60 to 70, 75%, and maybe average students, 40 to 60 below average. We divide the students into different categories, and what normally happens with this is that's psychologically affecting the students. Like, we don't get it what exactly we need to take out of the students. Sometimes, different schools have got different ways to handle and deal with the students, in which way, which sphere they are good with it. But always when we talk about the extracurricular activities, it happens with, parents are even less worried or less interested regarding the co-curricular activities. What they need is mark. When the student is going to the school, he or she need to be well in the subject. They have to complete the subject, and they need to come out with the excellent mark, because they're comparing the children with other students who are maybe staying nearby. They have got their dreams. The parents who could not fulfill their dreams, they want to compel their children to complete the dream of the parents. So in that case, what we call it the extracurricular or co-curricular activities, if we specify it, how do we take it up? Maybe it's official or semi-officially, it's approved, and usually, we organize the students' activities in the different activities, which is like athletics, some role plays, or some other, as name of, like some expression, maybe self-learning pattern for the students by the practices. That's what we can call it as, co-curricular or extracurricular activities, which is already supporting the curricular activities. But how do we go about it at this stage? How can we make this one very proper for the parents and the students to go ahead with it? That's a very big question mark. Even none of us may have the answer for that, but different people have different options, opinions, wherein we can put certain things. Many of our schools are going with the online classes. Some of the schools are going with us regular as a routine of the school, like online classes, taking the help of own designed LMS, or maybe some ERPs, maybe like a Zoom classrooms, WebEx, maybe Google Classrooms, or whatever, like, different things are going. But why don't we put ourselves into it and get a certain kind of exposure for the student? That's a very big question mark. Many of us think like, no, we have to complete the syllabus. The syllabus is too vast. If we do not complete the syllabus, a question mark will come when parents talk about the paying of the fees, admission. Regarding that, they will ask you the questions. The teachers or the school is not completing with the syllabus, the teaching is not going very properly, then how can we pay the fees? Different questions that comes up as per the situations, maybe metros or non-metros or rural areas, it happens with. Frankly, like, as I'm from Guwahati, so we are in metros, but we feel like, metro or the urban areas or non-urban areas are almost the same. Like, at this age, there is no separation. it happens with, and we are struggling ahead even to complete the syllabus, though as some of the panelists were very properly mentioning the mem who has just in front of, before me, like probably Sangeeta ma'am, when you have mentioned it, you just put it very properly forward, like, it is not that we need to complete with the syllabus. It's not that we complete with certain things. We have to take the children ahead to understand what they are supposed to and what they need to be in life. We have to give a motivation to them. We have to take it that one very properly. If you're failing in that, as educationalist principals or the teachers or the representative for the educational panel, we are a big failure. So what we have to maybe put into it is that, like, give some extra energy into it, that each and every parent to understand. Maybe you may take certain kinds of PTMs online, like you take the classes. I do always suggest you can take the PTMs. It's very much possible, like the same platform that you teach the students is online. The same way you continue with certain PTMs, you try to make the parents understand. Otherwise, what happens is that, like, the students who are staying at home, they definitely get bored. They will not be able to concentrate themselves in the studies, and they will be coming back. So ultimately, we need a student who is well equipped in the 21st century. They should be properly managed in both academic and non-academic parts. When the students are coming to the school, definitely we have certain activities like maybe a debate competition, storytelling competition, singing, dancing, music, and different kinds of athletic activities and different things that we can put forward in it. But as the students are staying at home, what is the option that we have got as an educationalist to improve the interest of the students? The students are being taught alone only the subject, which is subject. If you taught alone, they will not be interested into the future life. Maybe the students who are mature enough, if you take it up the age group of 13 onwards, they may understand and definitely they will go ahead with it. But other students, even if you ask a student of class 1, do you want to study at home, or maybe you want to go to the school and study? Students will say, I want to go to the school, because they feel school is something like, it's their second home, maybe better than home. They feel that school because they have good different
Thank you, Mr. Sebastian.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful deliberations, and I think some very important points are being made over here. And I think that's the kind of things you're saying. I think we need to look at it and rework it. I think that, the definition of quality, as you mentioned, you talked about the definition, has to be constantly revised. And we have to really relook at how do we look at technology and make it work into school, co-scholastic activities, and how we're going to get out of this crisis, because children need to. You started by a very right adage about no work, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, and that's exactly what they're feeling in so many schools. I'm sure all my panelists here, they are putting out all videos on sports and dance and music and making activities so involved with their children because they want them to do other things. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much, and I'm sure that lots of questions are going to come up. I already see that, and I would like to request Mr. Raulo, because there was this question that's come up, and if Mr. Raulo is here, about the fact that, I think you ended a little abruptly. So if you could just what shall I say, do a quick overview of how you were planning to end the technology, because that's what people want to know, that since your presentation got sort of, a little shaken up. So if you're there, could you tell us how did you want to, an overview, and how did you want to end it briefly in about 2 minutes or 2 minutes? Could you tell us, Mr. Raulo? Very keen on knowing.
Yeah, right. Fine. Thank you. Technology is to be put it, because a lot of social medias are there which is to be put it. Here, I would like to say everybody certainly might have gone through the 21st century learning and skills by CBSE handbook that is there. And apart from that, alternative curriculum calendar has been already published by NCERT. And these things, they incorporate certain social media, YouTube videos, then ROR, and also there we have also, it is attached to our Diksha, right? While making a PPT, a link can be given it, because online teaching is now so much important. Somebody is saying it is no, Corona has to be, we have to live with Corona. It has just born, and we have to born with new technology, and we have to struggle to survive as well. So we have to go with, so when it online teaching goes, people have different methods. Some people take the help of social media like YouTube, and also they just do it, and but when live it goes, we have to take some platform like Zoom, and it's also, but it's a safer side what it is, the part is again Google Classroom, and through that we can go and have a PPT learning. And sir, extracurricular activity about Mr. Sebastian was speaking about, that also can be done, because a studio setup can be taken also. A studio setup that we have established here. When 2-3 setups, I think one Zoom, one setup is there, and other setup having focusing in another different way. Even mobiles can help a lot. It is not that everybody should have digitization in the whole campus. But teachers staying at home, it is not possible at all that they can get at all that devices to make it, because all are there in home quarantine. In a sense, we can say it, that nobody in the school. Here, what can be done? They can do it, and but some people, technical staff, usually our schools are now equipped. We are so good, because I know that we are all mostly here who are run by mostly private setups as well. Okay, then there is possibility also that we have a technical team and IT team. Every school has, because now every school is solely ITC. Information and communication technology has been taken into consideration. Every school has a certain digitalization, and they can have a studio setup. That through that you can take the group, because at a time we can have the strength of 300 students at least participate.
I think I get that, and I think that's a very interesting proposition. There's just something I would like to say, because I know a lot of schools are facing issues about fees and fee structures, and a lot of money is going to be spent. And so, in fact, the other day we had a very close
but
meeting.
actually
We had a close meeting with the CBSE, sir, in which the new chairman came on, and a couple of us were invited to talk to him. And in that, what we suggested is that, you see, right now everybody is giving you things free. But the moment things happen, they're going to start asking for very big licenses. And right now, even you may be a private school, but we can't afford giving such huge license fees. So we told the chairman, Mr. Ahuja, who's an extremely progressive and wise sort of a gentleman, and we said that why can't CBSE create its own format, create its own platform, and this will help us, because we have financial crunches. And in that platform, we can embed ePathshala, we can embed Swayam, we can embed Diksha. So we don't have to go around hanging around with Microsoft Teams and paying them 10 lakhs and 15 lakhs. And let me assure you, it's the buyer's market. Nobody's going to lessen the cost for us. So I think it is very, very necessary that all of us as principals, and so he asked me to write a concept note, and I wrote and sent it to him. The Prime Minister himself is talking about this kind of a platform. Why should we get involved with Zoom or anybody else? If the CBSE as our own board gives us a platform like this, it will really help us. And I'm sure that a lot of my colleagues will agree, because we are really strung up for cash, strung up for the fact that we have to pay the teachers their salaries, which are the most important things. So as much as we can get free, it is important. There's a very important question that's come up from Mr. Sanjay Raut. And he's from Centurion School in Odisha. And any of the panelists could answer this, whoever would like to, Mrs. Sood or Mrs. Tandon or whoever. He talks about the fact that, online evaluation is very problematic. Also, the network is an issue. I mean, even as we speak, we have an issue here with one of our panelists. She's going in and out because of the lack of electricity and has to come out. So can you imagine if somebody has to do that? So how do we look at this network problem? How do we look at the problem that parents are having issues about eyesight? And how do we look at a long-term online evaluation? Because there's no doubt it's become blended. So would anybody, any particular friend of mine on the panel like to take this? Anybody? Mrs. Tandon or? Would any of you like to
Dr. Vattam, yes, I would like to answer this. Yeah,
Perfect.
The question is very pertinent. And we do understand the concern of the parents and teachers. How
please give us spotlight on
to move ahead with this.
Samrita, give a spotlight on her. Yeah. Please.
So yes, so the question is quite pertinent. Now, when it comes to online assessments, we do understand that not all schools can build or make one assessment. It is so difficult because people are not able to go to school. So from where is the training going to come? So perhaps online training first to the teachers is required. Now, network issues are there, perennial network issues are there. Not only that, the devices may not be available when you're planning to have the network, the assessment. So we really need to redesign our assessments. Now, can we not have an interactive class when we are having, in case we are having one, and we say, fine, here from here only we understand what the children have been able to understand. The concept formation, based on that we do. And why assessments just now? What is the hurry? Can we not wait for some time in lower classes? Basically, we are just trying to see how much learning has taken place. What is the role of assessment? By basically to test whether the learning has taken place or not. It's not to test ignorance. And if we are doing that, we can really go easy. For the senior classes, of course, we do understand we cannot take it so lightly. We can have these assessments where we say, okay, now it is a project work which you can submit. You can scan, you can send on WhatsApp. You can, when we have an interactive class, then we look at it. Basically, we just need to look at concept formation and learning, and that's about all. We need to go easy at the moment. Later, when the school reopens, perhaps then we can think of some other kind of assessments, and together we can do the assessments. Presentations can be there. Project presentations can be there. Children are very good at it. We can do that. As far as screen time is concerned, we really need to cut down on that. I would say just 20 minutes at a time for the child to take a lecture or to understand is good enough. Like in our school, we do 20 minutes of teaching interactive, and then we are basically having just interactive session where discussion takes place, and we're moving to making us more. So guidelines can be given, and what the child has understood, the child can present that. That is also one way of doing assessments.
Thank you very much. I think that was very interestingly put, and I'm sure a lot of learning will happen. And you're absolutely right. This obsession with testing right now, it's not really necessary. But at some point, I think there is a open book assessments can be considered, and we need to be flexible. This is what Maitri Sinha is saying, and I think she's absolutely right in that. And also we have Geeta saying, like, PTMs could be having a sort of a periodic test going on. So there's a very interesting question. Mr. Sahu is asking about, how do we look at assemblies, and how do we look at games, and how do we look at these kind of issues in terms of when we get back, and essentially it's about community. It's about community. So would anybody like to answer that? Would anybody like to give an answer to that? Would Sue like to answer that? Or Mr. Sebastian would like to answer that? Anybody, any panelist who hasn't spoken would like to answer that? It would be nice. Or anyone. How do we look at assemblies and such? Yes, please. Yes, please, Ms. Yes, please. Could you put the spotlight on her? Yeah.
Yeah. Talking about games and assemblies, I think what we can do is we can have some kind of classes where videos can be uploaded, or it could be a proper online class also. Like after the classes are done, so this could be a 20 minutes class for games where either yoga or some kind of a games class where children can be involved, and they can even involve families. Parents can also be involved in some kind of exercise. And about assemblies, what can be done is instructions, activities can be sent, like supposing for the book day or for a dance international dance day or whatever, some kind of a video guidelines can be sent. Children can do those activities, those videos can be sent back to the teachers, and together they can be uploaded and shown to all on a particular day, maybe on the Facebook page or on their website. So that would give kind of a motivated feeling to the children also when they see their videos being uploaded, and it could be a collaborative effort, not one child's effort. So maybe assemblies could work out like that, where I have seen some schools which have been doing it. We've also done it in our school, and plus my granddaughter, she's in Nord Anglia School in Hong Kong. So basically I got this idea from that school. They're doing it very beautifully, and they've been doing it for a long time. It's working out well for them.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think these are very important points that you made over here. We have, I think, Shrishti Mundi, who hasn't mentioned which school she's from, but she says that I think, the old CCE system would work perfectly well in this context.
Absolutely.
And I feel I feel really, because I'm the one who wrote this manual. And I remember that we went around the whole of India doing this, and I felt terribly distressed when suddenly the new government came and took it off, and I felt a lot of work which was happening suddenly went. And today, in so many ways, we require this. Would anybody like to comment on this? Because it will really be helpful to us. Who would like to comment, please?
Yes, Dr. Vatal, I would like to speak about this.
That Dr. Rajni
was removed.
Sorry.
Yes, please. Whoever speaks. Is that Mrs. Tandon? Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, Dr. Vatal, we totally agree with you, because it is only with CCE that we were able to pay equal attention to co-curricular activities and not just to academics. So when it was removed, not just you, even we were taken aback. Perhaps the implementation could have been better and the training could have been better. That's about all I have to say. I wish it would be here back again when so many countries abroad are again taking it and they are taking it forward.
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. We have Suchandra, who is saying in one of our inboxes that, they are having assemblies through virtual reality. They are having PTMs. In fact, somebody has mentioned over here that how is it Anirbal of how important is PTMs today? Would anybody like to take that on? How important is PTMs today? PTMs today, sorry. Anybody would like to answer that?
Yeah,
Have we lost Rajni?
Yeah,
Yes, G. Yes, Mr. Ram, please.
Yes, right. It's very, very important. PTM is very important. We can call the parents through our these meetings, whatever we are doing for the classrooms, right? Because recently we have conducted, now it is very, very important role for the parents to be at homes. So they should be also counseled, the psychological, mental health of the children. They are very frustrated sitting at homes, right? And for that, their guidance 100% is required, and that schools have the important role to guide the parents to take care of the children's mental health as well as physical health, with the taking care of the studies, what is there, they have it in the school. For example, recently we conducted, somebody said it that is it possible or not to have the online test. It is their e-portal. We have to create in our website, separate system we have to create. We have created in our website when we don't have any ERP system for having online tests. Our own website, we have created a e-learning portal where we have conducted recently. Somebody suggested for open book test. Yes, we should not have. It is also having the 21st century skills. All those Bloom's taxonomy is solely implemented through e-learning portal, the question answers, and students take it very, very sincerely. They were very happy that they had some examinations. They are not worried about examinations, because from childhood, every year they have appeared 4, 5, 6 examinations. When examinations are not there, children get bored of that, and they were so happy that at last they have some examinations. It's not that they have to go for a 100 marks paper or 80 marks paper. There's 20 marks, simple test, open book test to their situation. Absolutely. That is very, very important.
I think, we are a very testing kind of a civilization. We are like that, but we are obsessive about testing. And I always say competition may bring you success, but collaboration will bring you livelihood. But we're always competing. So you're right. We have to do some testing, or they'll drive us up the wall. I want to say something about a gentleman from Bhabatosh Nath from Tirupura.
Ma'am, Sebastian sir also wanted to comment on the question that we had raised earlier, sir.
Yes, because then after that we come into Mr. Bhabatosh Nath's question. Yes, yes.
Okay, that is regarding how we can have the assemblies and extracurricular activities, and at the same time the PTMs too. As I already intimated during the session which I was having it, I said it the students are having the classes already, online classes. So we should use the same platform for the exam, I would say the PTM part. So it can be at the evening hours, like all the parents will be available at home. So it will be very easy to interact with. Until unless the sir was telling, Mr. Prasad was telling, if you are not getting the parents involved into it, the online teaching will have no effect. It will not take the effect as we want. And at the same time, just coming to the first point, which I could not mention it, in between Mem Sangeeta has answered for that. First, how can the parents or the students be involved in the extracurricular activities or the assemblies? Maximum at this present age, I hope so maximum school will have a YouTube channels and different platform wherein students' talent or different activities can be placed. So what we do in our school is like we keep it certain competitions and we ask the students to make the video and we upload it in the YouTube channel of the school. So that will be an exposure for even for the students to get it into it, and that will be good for to get it into the extracurricular or other activities for the students too.
Absolutely. I think that's
I'd just
very
like
well
to add
taken.
here,
Yeah.
like to add here,
Yes.
everything that we do need not be just testing or assessment. It could just be something which the children are doing at home to help out at this time in the house when they're there with everybody. Any kind of everyday activity which they're doing, small things, helping mother in the kitchen, setting the table, watering the plants. So these small little activities which they do also, children feel very happy, they make small videos, they send it to their class teachers. So this is another way of getting them to cope with the time that they're facing, something to get their mind off COVID and Corona and things like that.
Absolutely. We have thank you for that. We have a very we have a question, well, it's more of a statement than a question and I've always wanted to know people who stay at Jhumri Talaiya, because I used to always hear this name in the All India Radio, and I was very fascinated. Mr. Nishant, I wish I could see you. I would like to give you a hug because you're from Jhumri Talaiya. So I would like to, and let me tell you, Mr. Nishant is saying some lovely things. And he's saying that, he has a daily conversation with his parents and with the children. And I think that's fantastic. That small places in India, we're connecting, and we're so wise in the way we're looking at our own, at the way we're doing our online classes, and many congratulations for that. I wanted to get back to a friend of ours from Tripura who says it's from a 100% residential school, Mr. Bhava Tosh Nath, and says, yeah, I suppose there are these issues about residential schools which are there in difficult ways, and children are coming from 8 states to his school. So you can imagine the kind of issues. Would anybody like to comment on any residential school, what is it called, experience that you have, or one can take this further if there anybody here? Because we had somebody from a residential school in the last conversation, and I can agree with you entirely, because not only do you have to relook at the way that you're going to, firstly, how they're going to come in, and secondly, you have to relook how they're going to sit together, where they're going to eat, how are you going to separate the beds. It's about social distancing. So normally residential schools have quite large areas, but you have your own difficulties, and I'm sure that, Atya, I feel that we should get together a webinar with lots of principals, yes, only from residential schools. Yes, I would request Sugat to do that for the next one, because we should discuss that, because they get left out.
Mr. Raula is a residential school. Mr. Raula is a residential school.
Mr. Raula hasn't mentioned. I asked him, would he like to talk about it?
Yeah. This is we are having.
But he's from a sort of an upmarket residential school, right?
I'm not clear about what is the problem. Actually, residential school doesn't have a problem. Okay, what exactly is, when the school reopens, you have to go with a certain rule. Again, we have to extend our resources, because we have to provide the students the accommodation. If it is coming up, new normals coming, how to function the residential schools, because the government surely will think also, because residential school, all Navodaya setups are having the residential schools. And when the new normals come, at the same time, we have to equip with those things to give our students best of the facilities. And then only it is possible. Or else we have to get down with a different setup again, new setups for residential, because social distancing, they're staying and they're dining and catering, everything will be totally separate. Their services, because a lot of services is required from day in to day out, right? And when new normals come, we have to equip that same things. That has been to be mentally from this time only. It is to be ready for all the residential schools to function in future, whatever the new normals coming. Right.
We have Anjana from the Assam Rifle School, who's concerned about the issue of, she's very concerned about the issue of the fact that the senior students are just hanging on to their phones. And, that can be really problematic. How do you even tell them to get off the phone because they'll say, but you know, we're studying or we're doing this or we're doing the other. So how do you go ahead with that? If anybody would like to comment on this whole phonophobia and how do we get the senior kids off? I feel very bad for them. They've missed out so much, you know. So anybody would like to comment on this whole phone business? Any suggestions, any counseling on this?
Dr. Rajini, maybe?
See, doctor.
Anybody would like to talk about it?
In any case, I think even before COVID, kids were still hanging on to their phones. So that is not something which has happened post-COVID. You know, it happened before, it's happening during COVID, and I'm sure it's going to stay even post-COVID. Because for kids, that is something which makes them feel that they're constantly in touch with their peers at all times. It probably is being also used for their studies now, whereas earlier it was not being used for any kind of academic purpose. So now, in addition to hanging out and meeting their friends in the virtual medium, it's also being used for their online studies. So let's look at it from that positive angle. You know, it's being put to some better use too in these times.
Probably. So Mr. Bhabatosh Nath actually is concerned, and this is about, you know, this is the same Tirupura case, because you said, you know, you were saying that how do we do it, what do we do, and so on. But the most important thing here he's saying is that 80% of his kids don't have what is it called, their smartphones. So how does he cope with that? Because these are all issues about schools in rural areas, and that can be a real problem. So this is what he wants to know really from Tripura, because he said he's from 8 states. You know, how do we reach the last child? What are we going to do? I think the government itself is grappling with this. Because as I opened it by saying that nearly 250 million children have no access, and we're really going to be set back in a huge manner, because there isn't a digital divide, there's a digital abyss. They've fallen in. So would anybody like to take up, you know, so the other question coming up is how do we look at teaching methodology? Because most of the teaching that is being done through textbook teaching and across the board. There is no doubt about it. Because we have merely tweaked the textbook and put it onto online. At the most, we've embedded a couple of videos. But I have been to many, I've wandered around many of these virtual corridors and looked at links of people who are teaching. All I see is that they're just theorizing on the whiteboards, theorizing on the screens and so on. So the worry is, how do we make online more interesting? Because also the other problem is that not many children are coming on. So there is issue of absenteeism online. Anybody would like to take that?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yeah.
May I speak?
Yes, please, dear.
Yeah, Dr. Vattal, I was speaking about this only when I said it's flip learning that we have to get into. And this is a perfect opportunity which we have been provided with. So we need to count on our blessings. I know things are not right. And this is the time when we can actually implement it. Teachers can give all those links, guide them gently, ask them to study, go through that. It's not that word to word, line to line teaching should be done now. And when we have the interactive session, we look into that. And at the end of the day, the assessments also should be framed like that, where we look at the concept learning and nothing else. That is what I would like to say regarding these classes that we are having.
Right.
One
there's another
a little
sorry.
earlier. Yeah.
Yes. Please.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Carry on. Please carry on.
Amita ji, Sugat would like to say something about
yes, Sugat ji, please.
Offline learning. We're doing a lot of digital work for offline learning. Sugat, are you there?
Yeah. So
Yes,
I mean,
offline learning, like we're doing videos and stuff like that. Would that be a help if you could tell us a little bit about that? Not online, yeah.
Yeah, we've been working a lot on some of the issues over here, and then again, I don't think we have clear answers for everything, but we're trying our best in supporting the educators in their endeavors, in their efforts. What we are also working hard is we're also making these videos that are available to students. There are, especially in rural areas where the teachers don't have resources, but hopefully they still have some connectivity. We're making videos available to we're making videos that will be available to the parents and teachers and the students, which are literally modeling the classroom. So we're putting in some of that creativity over there. We're trying to build in some activities. I know a video cannot be very interactive, but then we can try and simulate some of that in the lectures that we are recording. So I just want to over here, but yes, please, Sangeet, Chandan.
Right.
That would help to an extent.
Right. There's another, Athya, there's another question that has come up saying that, I think it's Dipanjali, who says that how do we, parents are somehow not responding very well, and they are kind of not helping out children to look at the online mode. So how do we go forward with this kind of, making parents aware? So anybody would like to take that question? And one more, it's a statement which I said earlier also from Anirban, who says that please invite rural principals who are in rural schools, whose Ratna Sagar is connected with, and you are connected with the whole of India. If you could invite them, please, so that we can hear from the horse's mouth is his own statement. He's saying that, which I think makes a lot of sense. So even he will learn what's happening. So Sugat, I request you and Athya to do this for us.
Yeah, Dr. Amrita Burman has some schools in the semi-rural areas, and she did mention it in the second session. We should invite more.
No, but we should invite, Amrita Burman is the director. We should invite the principal directly.
Yeah, one of the principals.
Because, it makes a big difference when the principal speaks, because they're not doing the hands-on.
Yeah. We could invite one of the principals from Punjab, that group. Was that group Rajiv? One of the principals, they would be really good. Badu Sahib. Yeah.
JPS, somebody is speaking from JPS, to all panelists. She's saying my school is in a rural area. So you could probably find out she's from there, and if you're connected with them. So there are many questions about how...
Ma'am, you write to us about your problems, and we'll try and get back with you with some answers and suggestions. The rural
Then
areas.
we have Karina Ahmed, who's saying that, parents do not know English. And they don't know how to even connect technologically to the computer, leave alone to the language. Because, without the parent, very small children don't know how to get on. I think these are different issues completely from urban private schools, Atyaji. And I think we need to really address this, because I think then we can make a paper and pack it off to the government and say, this is what's happening. Because sometimes, people kind of ignore these kind of things, which are so important.
In our fourth session for Tamil Nadu and Kerala, we have one panelist who's talking about captured classes, she says, from Madurai.
What does that mean?
That means there's no connectivity at all. So what Sugat is saying that they're doing, so they are recording the lessons, not only for the connectivity, but both the parents are working. They have 2 instruments at home. They cannot attend the morning classes. So when they are free in the afternoon or the evening, then they do those classes with the children. And they call it captured classes there.
Yeah, Atya, this is the problem even in cities. It's not only in rural areas. We are also getting those requests that there are 2 devices and the parents are working, and there's a girl in 9 and a girl in 10. Who is going to attend the classes? Definitely we need to go in for recorded lessons also. It's going to be a mix of recorded lessons and interactive sessions if we can do it.
I think that's a nice response you've given even to Anjana Rankal, who's saying that she's planning to put up things and get things put up for the children in the rural schools, rural areas where she's principal of. There's basically a lot of acceptance and agreement to all what our panelists are saying, and there are more statements about how people are doing wonderful assemblies, doing basketballs games on virtual, and so I think it's a very interesting mix of questions. And a lot of people are saying parents are not ready to accept online classes. 50% of children cannot manage these online classes. So these are all questions. I would now request my panelists.
Ma'am, excuse me. Amita ma'am, there's one more question by Mahua Ganguly. Like they had written it alongside while the panelists were speaking. And Mr. J.K. Nayak. They want to know that soon a lot of offices will reopen. So parents will be involved in their office work. They will not be at home. So now how
Correct.
do we deal with pre-primary and primary kids? Because they really require parental guidance to attend these online classes. So
Maybe no getting it
Could
home.
I
We have a
intervene here?
specialist in primary here. Maybe
Yeah.
she could give us some insight into that. Yes.
Dr.
I'm not a,
Suman?
could I
Sumanji,
say a word here, please?
Yes, please, please.
Yeah, in our school, what we do is up to class 2, we don't have any live classes for them. So all the learning happens through audio clips and video clips, etc., which are sent to the children, which they can view at any time at their convenience when the parents are available, when they're free, so that they can sit with them and guide them in these lessons. And teachers, many of them now are they say things like, in a way we are thankful to this pandemic because it has taught us many things. It has taught us how to make small videos, even as a simple thing like showing children the bigger and smaller, and you showing a crocodile's mouth and showing them greater than and less than, and things which they themselves have readily available at home now, because they don't have any aids or teaching aids or anything at home. So with things which are readily available at home, they are making these small videos for children to send home to the children, and they can view it at their leisure when parents are around to help and guide them. So this could be one way of helping out children whose parents are working, especially
Absolutely.
small children.
Right. Wonderful. Sister,
Sumanji,
Sister Francis.
Yeah, what
Sister
Dr.
Francis.
Rajni has said is
Sorry,
makes a
somebody
lot
wanted
of
to say?
sense.
Sumanji, yeah.
Yeah, Sumanji.
Yeah, what Dr. Rajni said is making a lot of sense. Of course, we should not be having too many online classes for these little children, but at the same time, I feel we should not be calling them online classes. There should be a kind of a connection between the children and between the teacher, because once in a while, these little kids also need to see their teachers. They also need to see
Absolutely.
their other playmates,
Correct.
and it's more about connectivity than learning. And when they are given a prepared environment, because whether it is in a classroom or whether it is online, they are ready to learn, they are ready to grasp. So it should be a kind of a setup where the interaction should be not between not too many children and the teacher. Like what we have started, we have 3 children. We've divided the children into different groups, and with the 3 children, there is 1 teacher. And so it is more like one-to-one learning. And then another day, the next 3 children. So like that, we have divided the classes. And what happens is, it is like once a week or twice a week, each child gets a class. And it is more like a circle time. It's an integrated class where there is a story, where there is a, the rhymes are there, where there is even the child is sitting in front of the teacher and playing with the blocks, or the child is just coloring and drawing. And the teacher suddenly, the teacher also colors and draws and asks the questions to the child. So it's like interactive class. Along with that, there are guided and activities which children do in the house with their parents, and then they send feedback and videos. So there is total involvement, there is collaboration, because to make these classes interesting, online classes, whether it is for pre-primary, primary, or even for the older ones, I feel the teachers, they have to practice the 3 C's, and that is the creativity, collaboration, and critical thinking. If they bring out these 3 C's in their classes and their lesson planning, I'm sure the classes are going to be very, very effective, where children will not only learn, but they will also enjoy. So it's up to the charisma, and others see the charisma of the teacher, which needs to carry the weight, and the teacher needs to take those classes forward.
That's wonderful. I like your charismatic end. That's really wonderful. I just want to ask you, there's one more question by Sister Viju from St. Francis, who says that, they don't have, again from a rural area, they don't have smartphones. And how does she go ahead with children without smartphones? I mean, one way of broadcasting and doing WhatsApp, that's one way, and doing helplines in the evening, that's another way. But if there's somebody else who would like to also suggest for Sister Viju from a rural school as to how, if there's no smartphone, how can they look forward to doing some kind of learning? Anybody would like to take that question? Right. So I just want to tell Sister Viju that, Sister, I run a rural school in Jaipur, and what we're doing, and it's really far away, there's no connection. So we've given them very ordinary phones, but every phone has a WhatsApp, and through the WhatsApp and through podcast groups, we're doing learning, we're uploading videos, we're doing helplines in the evening from 4 to 6. And the same thing we're doing with children with inclusive learning. In fact, we have one of our panelists here who's doing some great work with inclusion with her own school. And so with the same thing with inclusive children, because children with inclusion have a great issue about online autistics, children with LDs. So I'm sure there's lots that is happening. I would just like now for our panelists to start rounding it up, and I would like just maybe if you could help me out here, and just 1 minute last thoughts. If you could start off with you, Ms. Sangeeta Tandon.
Amita, one very interesting question I just saw. The person, this is Anirban Sen, and he says, how do we deal with meddlesome we know or better than the teacher's parents?
Oh gosh. So you have the bulldozer parents. Just, I don't know, what can you say? You just have to give them a break.
We just need to counsel them. Yeah, we need to counsel them.
I basically say forgive them for they know not what they do. Let's take on the wonderful
we just need to talk to them.
Yeah. So I would like
we need
very
to just
much
counsel them, Dr. Vata.
Correct. So I would like very much for our panelists now, Sangeeta ji, if you can start with just a minute of your closing remarks, please. Your closing remarks.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Vata. A lot of learning has taken place in this session, and we've all been able to understand that in spite of so many challenges that we have, we need to move ahead. The road not taken, if you all remember. So this is a difficult road which we have taken, and we have to move ahead. There is no looking back. Let us count our blessings, see what will come out of it. Perhaps the rote learning will go. Perhaps that teacher lecture mode will go. So many good things can come out of it. If we stay positive, we can pass on this positivity to others. Take one step at a time. Comfort everyone. Keep your communication door open and be happy with parents. Take it as feedback. Take whatever suggestions which are coming, take into stride and move ahead. Always support people around you, be it your teachers, be it your parents, be it your students. Something definitely good is going to happen also. And one day we'll all meet in school.
Thank you very much. That was very nicely rounded. I now request Ms. Rajni Shekhar to just give her closing remarks, please. Rajni ji.
I just feel that we need to live at the moment, take things as they come. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. Yeah. Very clear.
We just need to take things and live for the moment. Forget about what happened in the past. There's no point in worrying about the future because we really don't know how long this thing is going to last. So let's live for the present and let's have faith and self-belief. Let's have faith in God. Let's think ahead. And like the famous, the famous song in Amitabh Bachchan's baritone, which says "Guzar Jayega." So Project Hope, that's doing the round. So this too shall pass. Guzar Jayega, and good things are yet to come. So let's live and let live.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that very hopeful and charismatic message. And then can we have now Ms. Suman Sood with her closing remarks, please?
Yeah, this online learning is definitely not an ideal situation, but it is also phenomenal. In what we have achieved in a few weeks, it would have probably taken us to achieve a year or so. So this has been a learning period. We have learned a lot. We have been nudged and then pushed into this situation overnight. And I salute the teachers who have taken it so well. So those teachers who had never probably handled a smartphone are now into this online learning. And probably this will be a new normal, because in the coming times, I feel it has to be blended or integrated learning. So we have to do our best to be prepared for not only a short-term situation, but also maybe long-term. So our recovery and the period or the recovery roadmap has to be very well mapped out.
Thank you very much. Very interestingly, sort of a nutshell you've done it. So I'm going to start with the last question once the closing remarks are over, and then we take one last question we're talking about. I would request Mr. Sebastian to give his closing remarks on this well, on these issues, and what does he feel ultimately?
Like the situation which came up, we never predicted, but whatever, as I was mentioning in the beginning before the meeting, we should be very optimistic towards the situations which happen with, every time it happens, we take all the negative things, this is problem, that's a problem, we are not able to handle it, but however we are handling the situation. So we should be, to an extent, in inverted commas, probably, we should be thankful to COVID-19. So these all brought us together and came with the different ideas, and definitely some of the questions which has arisen, the network issues, smartphone issues, the classes are not being handled or not able to be taken. So we have no question or answer for that. Let's expect, the miracles might happen, we may reopen the schools very often, and the students will be rushing to the school, and let's see, very optimistic about the situation, and that's it. Thank you so much.
That was very nicely done. Thank you so much. And finally, we have with us our friend, Dr. Rahul. Could you please make your last closing remarks on?
Right, thank you. Every person here who were present, all the principals and the directors of the different schools should believe in our teachers, because I always take care of the teachers, and they can take this, what a war like a situation for all of us. They can take to the parents, whatever the difficulties, they have a lot of potentials in them. We should believe in our teachers, empower them, and they can solve our lot of problems. We are worrying about so many things. Mobile phones are not available, this is not available, that is not available. But once let us talk to our teachers, of our parents, we should communicate. Through communication, so many things, because alternative it is the alternative now for all of us. We cannot give it up and talk it. Online education is a must now. It is the new normal, and the teachers are they have to come from normal situation to this new normal. It should be a normal situation now, till the things are coming and set right. And the 21st century skills, they should be equipped with, what I see. And all the educators, all the decision makers of all the schools should take care of the teachers. Teachers can do miracles. That is what I have faith in the teachers. And that is my message to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for that extremely touching message. And I'm sure that all your teachers love you a lot, because it seems that you are really very connected with your fraternity. And I think that's all our panelists have shown that. There's a question, last question that's come up from Mr. Day, when his concern is about social emotional learning. And I think, and how are we going to help our children through values? Because, how do you look at value education and so on? So I think it's a good way to sort of, this good summing up question about how do we look at value education, how we're going to look at social emotional learning being embedded. Would anyone or any two like to take up this last question of the day, please? And of course, there are lots of compliments to Ratna Sagar for having done this wonderful connectivity Biradari session for all of us. That's great. But anybody with a social emotional, because I think this is a very important question. Anybody would like to take it? Any of my friends on the panel?
I think you will be the best to take that. You will be the best, Amita. You will be the best, Amita ji, to take that last.
So, let me just tell you that, as I said, I personally believe that we should start having these sessions with online where we talk about mindful Mondays, and maybe if we have a mindful Monday, we have a calendar with social emotional learning words: mindful Mondays, thoughtful Tuesdays, wellness Wednesdays. Where we spend time with our children doing mindful things, whether it's mindful eating or when we come back, or even when we're online, how are we celebrating their birthdays? Are we mindful of them? Are we mindful of their cares, their worries, their conversations we're having? What kind of reflection and thoughts are children having? Because children need to be visible. Children need to be heard. So I think, and wellness Wednesdays, how is their body? What are their immunity systems? What are they eating? The children love to tell you that, ma'am, today I had a pasta, I had this, I had that. So I think it's so important to have scaffolding Saturdays. So you scaffold the ones who have found it very difficult to they need remedial work and so on. So I think these are very important things. In fact, I just asked Mr. Shiv Khera, I don't know how good or bad he is, but I asked him for a session, and I'm going to give you all his links and send it, because I've said, please speak about values. He talks a lot about, stuff. So I said, why don't you speak about how value should be embedded in children during the online? So I will definitely send the links to the principals from Evolving Paradigms, and I'm sure they'll learn a lot. So on that, I would like to say that friends, as principals, as teachers, we've been pushed into designing schools for crisis, as opposed to designing schools for what we wanted them to be, right? So there's an opportunity in all this. And all of you, the way you have spoken, the way you have talked about it, and the way you're planning to rethink your vision for the schools and accelerating change is commendable. And as the old African saying goes, that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you will be together. So I think Atya and Sugat, I think please build up this Ratnasagar community. Let us start sharing resources. Let us start sharing teacher training practices. Let us start looking at even documentation. Anybody wants anything, I'm ready to put it online for anybody. I mean, I've put it up on so many portals. So I think we should not be in silos anymore. The old schooling is gone for silo work. We have to now be really connected. And that's what really community is about. So I think let's refrain applause right now for ourselves. Who is not the true leader? The true leader who is day after day, week after week, month after month, sticks to it. And I think that's what we need to do, to get out of this exhaustion and stick to it. And on that note, I would like to really compliment the panelists. They were amazing. Such fantastic thoughts. I think, Atya, you should put it down in some kind of a booklet or a manual, the thoughts of the principles that have come across, because people will learn from them. A lot of schools will learn from them, and their communities will learn from them. That will be fantastic. If you can bring out a series of little booklets of thought leaders. That's right. Yeah. So thank you very much. With that,
thank you, Dr. Button.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Sugat, would you like to add something, Sugat?
Atya and Sugat, would you please like to add something?
I would really like to thank Dr. Vatal for hosting this session, and I mean, most of all to her, and then definitely our esteemed panelists, all of whom really contributed to our understanding of how they're handling all these issues on the ground and answering questions for all our
and to all the wonderful participants
in the audience. I really want to thank them as well for making time and coming and joining this session and making it successful for everyone to learn from. Thank you. Atya ji, you would like to say something?
Atya, would you like to say some last words?
Rajiv, we have about 500 participants. Rajiv Sharma, are you there?
Yes,
500 participants here, and on Facebook also there are more than 600. Yes, that's wonderful. And we have a WhatsApp group for all the panelists. So this group will go on growing and increase. Like Dr. Vatal said, we should be connected more across. I mean, somebody sitting in Guwahati should know what's happening in Jalandhar, and Jalandhar should know what's going on in Patna. So on behalf of Ratnasagar, I'd like to thank all of you and the wonderful team at Ratnasagar, Rajiv Sharma, the marketing manager, Samriddhi, who managed all this, and Sahil Khan. Thank you, all of you. Dr. Vatal.
Thank you very much.
Lots of salams to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Always with you. Always with you. Thanks. So with your permission, Sugat, can we all